Hi there, and welcome to Cretan Classics. Tonight, you saw by the thumbnail, we are doing top 12 tunes of the great Steely Dan. And my guest, who is wearing his Steely Dan t-shirt from My Music Corner, not my personal music corner, but that is the name of his channel, My Music Corner. Actually, My Music Corner, there, that way. Mr. John Clauser. Welcome, John.
Man, it's good to be on. It's been a bit since we did a show together.
Yeah, I was on your channel a few times during your
Yep,
Judas Priest series. Any
yep,
metalheads out there, check that out. I
yep,
was on Johnny's channel a couple of times for that series, and he's got a lot of great series on his channel. He has an Accept series, a Wasp series. You've seen him on my friend Joey Sudo's channel. He has a channel, Rock Show Critique. John's been on there talking about Wasp. John's on the Contrarians. He's on Grant's Rock Warehouse. He's all over the place on the internet. But special announcement to make. This is his final guest appearance before he takes a bit of a hiatus from YouTube. So I'm glad to have you. So thanks for coming on, John.
No, thanks for having me, man. This has been like I said, it's been a long time in the making.
Yeah. I think the last show we may have done together may have been on Bicycle Legs channel. I might be wrong though, but
It was either Bicycle Legs or Jack. Or
oh
Jack
yeah, probably
Toledano's
Jack's
because we
channel.
talked because we talked about the priest and KK's priest and Accept show.
That was it. You're right. All or nada, according to Jack. Check out that show. We
Yep,
did a concert review. Jack did New York, and we did Pennsylvania when
yep.
we went there and hung out with you and John the Music Nut. So this show is about Steely Dan. And here I have a Steely Dan FAQ book by Anthony Robustelli, if I'm pronouncing it right. And John has the autobiography from Donald Fagen, which Tia, my great producer and better half, says is out of print. So I don't know about this book, but we each have some Steely Dan type books to show off. Ooh, autographed.
And a nice little autograph book. So there you go.
Nice. Excellent. So we're each going to name our top 12 tunes from the great Steely Dan. And then, if there's time, a few honorable mentions too. So, John, before we get started, how'd you get into Steely Dan?
How did I get into the band? So the benefit of having a sister who's about 15 years older than I am, when I was about, excuse me, when I was about 6, 7 years old, my sister brought this album home with her. And I was already listening to Kiss at this point. And so I'm like, what is that on that cover? It just enthralled me.
As a
But
kid?
as a kid, yeah. But then I started listening to the music and I really liked the album. It was different than Kiss,
Oh, very.
so much different than Kiss. So it was just an album that just really grew on me. So and then my brother was also a Steely Dan fan too, and his favorite album was the follow up, which was Asia. But yeah, I grew up with a lot of Steely Dan in the house, so that was where I got my start.
Nice.
And
And
then,
I got
and then of
into
course,
them just tearing.
and then of course, I got to see him in 2016. So that was very cool. So in fact, it was 9 years ago, almost to the day, uh, as we're recording this. It was April 24th of 2016 when I got to see him. So Walter was still with us yet at that point. So
And
there
I
you
saw them live twice. I saw them once, Two Against Nature tour, so it was both of them,
go.
Fagan and Becker. And then T and I saw them before the pandemic in 2018, 2019 or so, right?
Ah,
We saw them at the Beacon Theater in New York City, and that was just, unfortunately, Donald Fagen because Walter had passed by then.
right,
So the
right.
duo goes back to the early 70s. They went to college together. They became friends. They started a band. They played with Chevy Chase of all people. Was their drummer for a little while. Not many people know that, but that
Yeah.
is a true fact
Yep.
because Chevy Chase was a musician before he was a comedian. Go figure. And now
Yeah.
he's just, well, a lot of people aren't fans of Chevy Chase, but I think his mouth gets him in a little bit of trouble. But now we're going off on a Grant Arthur tangent. So let's bring it back to Steely Dan. Let's reel it in back to
That's right.
Dan over here. So
That's
I heard
right.
them on rock radio in the 70s, late 70s when I started listening to FM rock radio, but I never owned any of their records. I just knew the hits that they played on FM rock all the time here in New York, all the
Mhm.
big hits. Some of them we might mention, some we might not. And then when I started working in the record stores in the late 80s, that's when I started hearing all the albums. And I heard these great deep album tracks. Why wasn't that played on the radio? Why wasn't that one played on the radio? Because not every song by every band could be played on the radio,
Right.
unless you're maybe the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. So we're going to go two at a time here. So John is going to give you his number 12 and number
Okay.
11.
All right.
And here we go. Take it
All
away,
right.
John Clauser.
There you go. Thank you, brother. So most of my songs are gonna be pretty recognizable. I really wanted to just do a bunch of deep cuts, but I'm just like, no, that's no, I can't. So number 12 is gonna come in from I believe this one is from
He
Katie.
lied. Bad Sneakers. That's going to be my first pick. I think that's Katie lied. Anyway, love the Becker lead guitar. You get Michael McDonald on background vocals for the first time on that particular album. Um, just one thing I've noticed about Steely Dan's lyrics. I'm not even going to say what everything's about, but there's just so much about disillusionment about so many of their songs, and Bad Sneakers is definitely one of those. But yeah, I love the I bad. It's just a nice feel. I love the background vocals that Michael provides, and I think it's just a good flow song. Um, Number 11, this one's going to be my only song from the Gaucho album, Hey 19, the big single. Very good album, but there's just something about that song that I've always liked Hey 19 for the longest time. And here again, very melodic track, another kind of a disconnection song with the generations, maybe not quite so bad as Going Blind, not maybe not quite that bad, but certainly enough of the us being the baby boomers just can't seem to get the millennials and the other generations that are coming after millennials, and it's this technology. I don't get it, but they do for whatever reason. So go figure. But yeah, that's gonna be my first two: Bad Sneakers and Hey 19.
Cool. And you were right. Bad Sneakers is from Katie Lied. Both
Okay.
of these songs, spoiler alert, they were on my larger list, but they didn't make the cut, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And my
Okay.
favorite line in Hey 19 is when he says, Hey 19, that's Aretha Franklin.
Hmm.
He's trying to explain to his younger girlfriend who
Yep.
Aretha Franklin is because she's from a different generation. She doesn't know.
Yep.
But that's a
And the
great line in that song.
and the Quavos and the
And
band.
the Fine Colombian.
And it
Oh
got
yes.
radio airplay. It was a big song back then. And
Yeah, it did.
they have a lot of allusions to drug use and the drug culture back in the day at the time, but that was all the rage in the 70s. So
Yep. Yes,
go
it was.
figure. And my larger list contains, they made about 85 songs or so, give or take. And my larger list had like half that, 42. And I was trying to be conservative, and I was not conservative. And to chop that down to a dozen songs plus some honorable mentions,
Ugh.
wow, what a headache. I thought
Yeah.
Dio, I'm going to be on a show that's going to air. By the time this comes on, it'll be on Rock Show Critique. We all picked our favorite Dio songs from his whole entire catalog, going back to the doo-wop through Heaven and Hell and his solo
Wow.
stuff.
Wow.
Sabbath, Elf, everything. And that was hard. And so was this. This was also hard, harder than I thought it would be.
Yep.
So, going to my list, I'm going to start off with the album you showed. Oh, I know you have there. You have the Asia album. And every song that I'm mentioning, it's upside down, but that's okay.
Whoops.
There's Asia, AJA, but it's pronounced Asia.
Mhm.
I was the girlfriend, I think, of one of Fagan's friends was named Asia, and he thought it was a cool name. So that's where
Mhm.
they got the album title from. Every song on my list, and probably your list too, is written by Becker and Fagan. This is a 5 minute song. The groove on this song, you got Paul Humphrey on drums and Chuck Rainey on bass. Side one, cut one, Black Cow. drink your big black
Black
cow
cow.
and get out of
Oh
here.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that line in the song. Tom Scott, famous jazz saxophone player on sax. Larry Carlton, another jazzer on guitar. Victor Feldman on Fender Rhodes piano. And Joe Sample on clavinet here. And not to mention, but I'm going to mention them anyway, the great backing vocals. Clyde King, Vanetta Fields, and Shirley Matthews. Oh, and Rebecca Lewis, sorry. Becker is not on this song. He co-wrote the song. He doesn't play on it. That's the thing about Steely Dan.
Yeah.
They tried out so many session musicians until they got the right performance that Becker and Fagan heard in their heads. And if someone played it better than they did, or they thought they were better players, they got those players. So even though Becker co-wrote the song, he's not on it, which is just fascinating to me. Just a lack of ego. I co-wrote it. I have to play on it. No. And that's one of the things. That's one of the secret weapons in Steely Dan's arsenal here.
Yes.
The keys and the sax in this song scream jazz, but it has that soulful funk groove. And just the way Chuck Rainey, he's like plucking those bass strings at the beginning of the song, awesome. What is this song? It's a combination. It's funk, it's soulful, it's jazz, it rocks. I mean, Pete Pardo and his cronies did a show. What they have a show on Sea of Tranquility. What is this? And they did a show on Steely Dan. What is Steely Dan? And the answer is they're everything. They play like every genre of music. Another thing that makes them so good, you can't really categorize them. Even though they're a rock band at heart, they just go to so many other genres. What a way to start off your biggest selling album.
Hmm.
Black Cow. Love that song. That's my number 12. Moving on to my number 11. This was not on any of their records. There were four different versions, four different timings of it. It's from the FM, the original movie soundtrack from 1978. And I'm talking about the song FM. And that is the version on there on Decade of Steely Dan that has the guitar solo.
Hmm.
And since then, it appears in a slightly longer version with a sax solo, but I have info on that in my notes here. You got Fagan on piano, Becker on bass and guitar, Jeff Porcaro from Toto on drums and percussion, Victor Feldman on percussion, and Pete Christlieb, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, on sax. I lost my place. Oh, the backing vocals are by three guys named Fry, Henley, and Schmidt, but more on them in a moment. I
Gee, I
love
wonder
the
who the I
line.
wonder who
I wonder who those guys are.
I'm going to get to it in a moment. The line that my favorite line in the song is when Fagan sings, "Give us some funked up music." And the way he hits the funked up, it sounds like he's saying something else,
hmm
much like the Cars did the same year, 1978, on their debut album, when Ben Orr is singing Substitution, Mass Confusion Lies Inside My Head, while I'm forking all my energies until they're visited. Sounds like he's saying something else. And basically, the same year, you get Steely Dan doing that, where did he just say, oh, okay, no, he didn't say that. He said something very close to it. And this is the Dan's satirical look at the state of FM radio at the time. And it's made even more ironic by the fact that three of the guys, three-fifths of the Eagles, are singing the backing vocals on the song. Yes, it's Glenn Fry, Timothy B. Schmidt, and Don Henley doing the
Yeah.
backing vocals. So they're sort of, it's a parody, it's a tribute to FM, but it's slamming it at the same time, the radio from the movie soundtrack. And I haven't seen the movie in decades, by the way. And then you get the Eagles singing backing vocals on it. Now, the version on the CD that you showed, that's the 4 minute, 50-second version that has the smoking guitar outro solo
Yeah.
from Walter Becker on it. And
Yeah.
then the 5 minute, 6 second version has the sax outro solo by Pete Christlieb. Both versions are great, but I really like the one with the guitar solo better, just because I like guitar better than sax. But
Sure.
Pete Chrisley, a great player. I'm going to talk more about him coming up. So that is my 11 FM and my 12 Black Cow. Over to you, Joe.
Okay. All right. So number 10, man, I almost hated to put this one so low because I just love the groove and
I just love the music and the feel to this song, but the title track from Pretzel Logic, with the great Becker solo and just that bum 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 bum. just that throbbing groove, man. Again, love that song. Another song about disillusionment. But man, that song just absolutely rocks. And I'll tell you, and I got to hear that one live at the when I saw them, and man, that sounded amazing live. I don't know. I didn't look to see who else plays on this particular song, but I know it was Becker who does the most of the guitar work for it. But what a great track. My number nine, I'm gonna go to the Asia album as well, and let's go with the title track. Hey, Asia, when all my dime dancing is through. Anyway, not torture anybody with my voice. Yeah, another great song talking about basically just trying to, kind of this tranquility from the world's distractions is a nice way of putting this song. But it really is it's just such a nice, tender song, and you get this, the band just kind of gets to break loose a little bit. You got Steve Gadd just going crazy with the drums. What a great track. Another one they did live that I got to see. They actually did most of the Asia album that night. But
Again, another just wonderful, wonderful song. And yeah, like Asia, Asia's just so much more.
more upbeat sounding than its predecessor, which we'll get to in a little while, especially on my list. So there you go. Yeah, Pretzel Logic and Asia.
Nice. And to piggyback on that, I read that Steve Gadd was hung over. He went in, and that's the first take on the drums.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Steve Gadd's the man. That's all I got.
Got to say about that. He is definitely the man.
What a performance on that song. Now, Asia, spoiler again, on my larger list, didn't make my list, unfortunately. They have too many good songs. How do you
Mhm.
narrow their whole oeuvre down to a dozen cuts? What a great catalog. My number 10 is also a title track, but not the one you just mentioned. I'm going to go to 1976's The Royal Scam. And the Royal Scam is my number 10. Once again, Chuck Rainey on bass, but this time you get the great Bernard Purdy on drums. So you get that Purdy sound, that groove, that Purdy shuffle, as they call it, that Steve Picaro stole from him. Sorry, Jeff Picaro. Jeff Picaro stole from him from Toto. More on him after. So the rhythm section is the bedrock for this mini epic title track. And another fine groove it is. Indeed, indubitably, it is. You get searing guitar licks and a solo, courtesy of Larry Carlton. There's his name again. He made his bones before he started making solo records in Steely Dan. And this is a magnificent, moody, masterful song that is not immediate, and it takes some time for it to seep into your pores. It's not there. It's that catchy song. Oh, I love that song. You got to hear it a few times and let it sort of flow over you until it takes over your soul.
Yes.
And I love the female backing vocals here. Again, King, Fields, and Matthews singing the backing vocals. Get some nice piano and organ work as well. So the title track, Royal Scam, is my number 10. My number 9, I'm going to go to Asia. Different song than you had. 4.5 minutes, Josie. Number 20 in Canada, 26 in the US, and number 44 on the US adult contemporary charts. You got Larry Carlton and Dean Parks on guitars here, yet Walter Becker plays the guitar solos in this song. So the guy could smoke, yet
Yeah.
he's a great player, yet he had other guys playing lead guitar on a lot of the Steely Dan stuff. Chuck Rainey's on bass, Jim Keltner on drums here. And Chuck Rainey's just a monster bass player. You get Victor Feldman on electric piano, Timothy B. Schmidt once again on the backing vocals. This was the third and final single from Asia, and it slithers and slinks along, and it's got that ultra catchy chorus. So Josie is my number 9. The Royal Scam is my number 10.
All right. More on the Royal Scam later.
Later. Interesting with Josie is that Larry Carlton on his On Solid Ground album does an instrumental version of Josie. and so he kind of plays the lead of Donald's vocal line for the through the song, and that's what how they worked with it. But very nice version of that. But yeah, very interesting that he didn't play the solo in that. But anyway, okay, number eight. Uh, Again, one of the classics by the band. You come on, don't lose. Come on, Ricky, don't lose my number. You know, you got to include that song because I mean, pretty much everything here. I mean, there's just everybody's going to recognize a lot of what's left here on my list. But I mean, Ricky, don't lose that number is just such a memorable song with that piano line and just Donald's just suave vocals throughout the whole song. It's just the background vocals, the melody, everything just comes together so well in this song. Always has been a perennial favorite for me. Um, my next one,
This one really needs to have been higher, but again, when you see all these other songs, you'll kind of understand why. This is going to be my first track from the Royal Scam. This one's going to be the opening track, Kid Charlemagne, a song loosely based around a particular drug doctor in Hollywood,
and just all the fun and excitement of this particular character. But how about that Larry Carlton guitar solo, for God's sakes? Come on.
Yeah.
I love that Larry Carlton solo. Um, so much so that, again, when I saw them, that was the only song from that album they did.
and I think it was John Harrington, I think, who's playing guitar or lead guitar for that. You would think there's certain with certain songs you got to you there's even the parts of the guitar solos are iconic, and that end part of the solo where he does the
That little tap thing he does at the end that Larry does. Yeah, he didn't do anything along that line. I was so disappointed to not get to hear that. I know it's just a dumb little quibble, but otherwise the song sounded really good. They did a good job with it. But yeah, Kid Charlemagne, man, what a great track. You get the great backing vocals like you mentioned with the Royal Scam. I'm sure it's the same team. Great track, great opening track.
not really released as a single
Per
per se.
se, I don't think they didn't release any singles from this album per se, but and if they did, I don't remember exactly how well they did. Yeah, okay, I think they did do two or three singles, but yeah, but this one was one of them. Definitely one of the more well known songs. So
Yeah, played on
there you
rock radio a lot.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there you go. Ricky, don't lose that. Don't lose that number in Kid Charlemagne.
Moving along to my number eight. It's from an album. It's a title track from 1974, Pretzel Logic, 4.5 minutes. The title track, the single was edited down to 4 minutes, hit number 57 in the US, number 48 in Canada. So it
Mhm.
wasn't a big chart hit. It's the second of two singles from the album. You get Dean Parks on rhythm guitar and Walter Becker on lead guitar here once again. Fagan
Mhm.
is playing Wurlitzer piano, and Michael O'Martian or O'Martian, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, is on piano. Timothy B. Schmidt on backing vocals with Donald Felder here. It's another mint groove. You get Wilton Felder on bass and you get Jim Gordon on drums. And my favorite line is when he says, "Where did you get those shoes?" After the
Mhm.
middle break. And he's
Mhm.
telling it's a story song. Most of their songs are story songs. And I love it when Fagan says, "Where did you get those shoes?" Love that line. So my
Yeah.
number eight is Pretzel Logic. And we're going to touch this album for the first time, going back to their first album, 1972's Can't Buy a Thrill. Side one, track one, nearly 6 minutes long. The single was cut down to 4:14. Do It Again. Not the Kinks song, the Steely Dan song.
Yep.
Number 60 in Australia, where we have some friends, Bicycle Legs and Peter Kerr. Canada, number six. Germany, number 33. The Netherlands on two different charts, number 15 or number 10, depending which chart. The US, number six, just like Canada. And on the easy listening chart of all things, easy listening, Do It Again, it was number 34. And I always thought this was an odd choice for the first single, unless you include their non-album debut single, Dallas, but that didn't even chart anywhere. It's such a weird song, yet somehow it works. Fagan on vocals, electric piano, and plastic YC30 organ. Becker on bass, Jim Hodder on drums, Jeff Skunk Baxter on guitar, Denny Diaz on guitar, and electric sitar. So you have this weird organ solo, you have an electric sitar solo, yet it's a huge single and one of their most well-known songs. It's
Hmm.
both magical and mystical, yet it rocks and grooves at the same time. It's a classic for a reason. So
Yep.
my number seven, Do It Again. Number eight, Pretzel Logic, title track. On to
Rock and
you, sir.
rock and roll. All right. So number six, I thought about singing this again, but I thought, no, I'm not gonna again, won't torture everybody with my voice. Let's go to the first. Let's stick with the first album again, shall we? And let's go reeling in some years a little bit. You know, you inspired me with looking up the because I'm curious about these chart actions here. So yeah, this one made it to 11 on the top 100 for Billboard, 7 on Cashbox Top 100, 15 in Canada. Hey there, Mike Ladano and Metal Roger and Martin Popoff, and number 62 down in Australia. Let's see who plays on this thing. We have the amazing guitar solo of Elliot Randall. Man, done in one take, from what I understand. Just an amazing guitar solo. But the rest of the band, you get Denny Diaz and Jeff Baxter. Becker plays bass, Jim Hodder on drums, and of course, Donald Fagen on lead and backing vocals and piano. And Victor Feldman on tambourine. But a great track again. You gotta love that song. You just gotta love how that flows. Great riffs, great everything. See, we could harmonize that part.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next my next track is going to be another one from the Royal Scam. This one might maybe some people might call this a deep cut. I don't think this one was a single, if my memory serves me correctly, but this would be the third track on side one. Don't Take Me Alive, with another searing performance by Larry Carlton. Um, Again, telling this crazy story about this guy on the lam. He's trying to escape the law. He's 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 what? I'm a bookkeeper's son. I don't want to shoot no one, but I crossed my own man back in Oregon. Don't take me alive. Yeah, he's not gonna get taken. He's just not gonna it's just not gonna happen. Great track, but again, that searing riff, great guitar solo, great mood and atmosphere throughout the entire song. Great vocal from Fagan. What more can I say? Don't Take Me Alive. Number five, Reeling in the Years, number six.
Cool. My number six is going back to the Asia album, 1977. 7 minutes and 35 seconds. The single was cut to 6.5 minutes. They only chopped out a minute. That's a long single, 6.5 minutes,
Hmm.
unless you're Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm talking about Deacon Blues here. Number 14 in Canada, where our friend Tim Derling is too.
Yes.
Canadian Adult Contemporary charts, number 20. US squeaked into the top 20 at number 19. And the US Adult Contemporary, number 40. This was the second single from Asia. And I can't read. Oh, yes. Now I can read my handwriting. I was scribbling a little here. Purdy on drums once again. Becker on bass guitar on this song. Carlton and Parks on guitars. You get Feldman on electric piano. And once again, Fields, King, and Matthews on the great female backing vocals. Now, Pete Chrislieb on this song, he was part of Doc's band on The Tonight Show at the time, Johnny Carson's Tonight Show in the 70s.
Hmm.
And Becker and Fagan, they said, we like that sax player. We don't know his name. So they said to their producer, Gary Katz, who has to be mentioned on the show for
Yes.
shepherding us with so many amazing albums during this period. Gary Katz, they said, get the sax player from the the Tonight Show band from Doc's band. We want to try him out on this song. So he comes down, he does the sax solo in one take. They say, that's great. We really like that. Do another one. And Chris Lieb said it was his second sax solo that they used, his second take. And then the next thing he knows, he's hearing it all over airports and the bathrooms throughout the world.
Wow.
Airport bathrooms. He says, all of a sudden, I'm hearing myself because Deacon Blues was a big hit. And he was just part of the Tonight Show band. And then he's thrust into the spotlight playing on a Steely Dan song. So I thought that was a really cool story. This is very lush and atmospheric. It's got an excellent pre-chorus and a chorus, and it's another mini epic, 7.5 minutes. That's like almost the length of a Prague song. I'm not saying Steely Dan of Prague, but they touch a lot of musical
Yeah, they
genres.
probably, yeah, they
And you
got
could say
that.
with their different sections and the moods and the atmosphere, maybe a tiny bit, but I wouldn't call them a Prague band. So that's my number six. My number five, you mentioned already, and it's so catchy, 4.5 minutes long. The single was 4 minutes. Ricky, Don't Lose That Number from Pretzel Logic, 1974. Number 30 in Australia, three in Canada, four in America, the highest charting single here in the States, and 15 on the US Adult Contemporary chart. It was the first single from Pretzel Logic. You get percussionist Victor Feldman playing an instrument called let me see if I can pronounce this right, the flapamba, Flapamba, the flapamba. For the first 23 seconds, it's very low. You have to really turn up the volume to hear it, and it's chopped off the single edit. And a flapamba is a percussive instrument that's played with soft mallets or someone's fingers. And to me, it sounds like the kalimba that Earth, Wind, and Fire used to use back in the day, which
Right.
is another different kind of percussion instrument. I thought it was a kalimba. Turn out it's a flapamba. Who knew? But I learned something new, so that's pretty fascinating. You get Fagan on vocals, of course, Jeff Skunk Baxter on guitar, Michael Omartian on piano, Jim Gordon on drums, Victor Feldman on regular percussion, besides the flapamba, backing vocals by Becker, Fagan, and Timothy Schmidt here. So Becker was doing some backing vocals on these records. This is such an ear candy song. What a chorus. Exquisite guitar solo by Skunk on this song. Love it. And even John Lennon is quoted as saying he liked this song in a 1974 interview back then. It's about a girl that Fagan had a crush on in school, not a drug song, which people think it is by some of the lyrics, just about a girl he had a crush on, a lost love. Ricky, Don't Lose That Number, my number five. And my number six was Deacon Blues. Over to you, good sir.
All right, so let me tell, I gotta tell a story about.
About Deacon Blues because y'all know I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. And what's one of the famous lines from Deacon Blues?
Could I
If
say it? Could I
if
say it?
if
They
you would
call
like,
Alabama the Crimson Tide, right?
correct.
Yes.
They got a name for the winners in the world. I want a name when I lose. They call Alabama the Crimson Tide. Call me Deacon Blues. So I think back in that time period, Alabama wasn't quite the juggernaut college team that they are now. So they were well, no, that's not totally true because Bear Bryant was the coach, I think. But anyway, so he tells this story in his little book. I want to just share this. So decades later, we're back on the road. It had become a thing that whenever we played Alabama, especially in Tuscaloosa, where the University of Alabama is, we'd have to play Deacon Blues. Chances are that none of the people drunkenly screaming for us to play Deacon Blues knew or cared what it was about. They just wanted to hear the words Crimson Tide in a popular song. It's not exactly an endearing song to the Crimson Tide. Let's just say it that way. Anyway, so that was a funny little snide. And yes, they did do Deacon Blues when I saw them. And yes, everybody screamed Crimson Tide. Anyway, number four is going to be from the Countdown to Ecstasy album. Another one of the more well-known songs from the album. Let's go back to My Old School. A song that only hit number 63 on the Billboard top charts. You got Skunk doing the lead guitar. You got Denny Diaz on rhythm guitar. Walter Becker on bass. Jim Hodder again on drums. Shirley Matthews, Myrna Matthews, Patricia Hall, and Royce Jones on background. Ernie Watts and Johnny Rotella and Laney Morgan and Bill Perkins all on different saxophones. And you get Jimmy Haskell doing a horn arrangement. What a great track. Again, the horns just make this song so special and so magical. And then again, the solos by Skunk just accents it so nicely. Just a great track. Love it. Always loved it. Number three, this is one you have actually already mentioned. The lead off track from Can't Buy a Thrill with its absolutely lovely album cover. Let's just point that out too. Do it again. Um, I can't really add much more to what you said. It is just a magical story, a magical feel. Fagen's vocals here is just otherworldly. The sitar adds a totally different dimension. I got nothing more to say to that. My Old School and Do It Again. 4 and 3 respectively.
All right. My number four, I used to mispronounce this song title. I'm famous for getting lyrics wrong, but this word is hard to pronounce. I'm going to try to get it right here. Bodhis, Bodhis, what is
Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva, won't you take me
Bodhisattva?
by the
There you
hand?
go.
Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva. It's a hard word to say.
Yes.
5 minutes and 16 seconds long. It's the rocking opening track on Countdown to Ecstasy that you just mentioned from 1974. You get the great guitar work of Skunk Baxter and Denny Diaz on this. Becker has some nice bass runs while they're going back and forth with the diddle on the keyboards and the guitars, and just listen to like the contrapuntal bass from Becker underneath it. He's a really underrated player, and I didn't
Hmm.
come to realize it until looking at all the credits. He's singing, he's playing bass, he's playing guitars. Talented cat, and it's a shame he's no longer with us.
Yes.
You get catchy choruses on this song. Fagen's playing cool keyboards throughout, like I said, when he's doing the runs, the with the guitar players, and they're swapping back and forth. And it's a parody of disposing of all your material possessions and how it leads to personal enlightenment. And Fagan says, yeah, it doesn't. He's just saying that. But that's what it's about. So that is my number four. It's a balls out rocker, Bodhisattva. And I got it right that time. Hooray. Moving on to number three is a song we haven't mentioned yet, neither of us, from 1974's Pretzel Logic, a little bit over 3 minutes. And the fact that this was the B side of Ricky to me is a crime. This should have been a single. It's a melodic gem of a song, and it's Any Major Dude Will Tell You.
Yeah,
And I
there you
can't
go.
believe this wasn't a song. And 2 years before Genesis had a song called Squonk from A Trick of the Tail in 1976, this song names Chex a Squonk. And according to what I read about it, the guys in the band had no idea what a squonk was, and they were trying to figure it out without letting Becker and Fagan know that they had no clue because they didn't want to seem stupid compared to these intellectual cats. You get Jim Gordon on drums, Chuck Rainey on bass, Fagan on electric piano. Here, David Paich from Toto, also on electric piano before Toto was formed.
Mhm.
You get Dean Parks on acoustic guitar, Diaz and Skunk on electric guitars, and Becker and Fagan on the backing vocals. And it's so melodic, it's so catchy, and just the electric piano work from Page and Fagan on the song is great. And I think it should have been a single. I think this would have been a hit single back in
Hmm.
1974. So Any Major Dude Will Tell You, my number three. Bodhisattva, I think I got it right again, my number four. Over to you for your top two,
All
Johnny
right.
My
Metal,
top
Johnny
two.
Crowther.
Well, you've already mentioned the one. My number two is Bodhisattva. Uh, man, I love that fast boogie, just that fast bluesy boogie sound, and man, they just combine that little bits of jazz, and then you get that section at the end, whereas after Vegas said "Look out," and it just this mood suddenly changes, and I always dug that mood change toward the end. as it rides it out to the ending outro solo and stuff.
Yeah, with those high guitar notes.
Yes, yeah, those are the kind of notes I think Michael Jackson liked, from what I remembered. Anyway, no. You talk. I want to talk about Jim Gordon for a second. Another studio talent. Sadly, no longer with us, and sadly under awful circumstances. But man, I mean, I have to say something at least about Jim Gordon. What a you know, between co-writing Layla with Eric Clapton and just so many wonderful session spots. He was certainly one of the best session drummers out there, and they were certainly good to have him on there. But man, what a shame what happened with him. But I got nothing more to really add to Bodhisattva, so I'm just going to move on to my number one track. Also going to be from the Royal Scam. I could have mentioned pretty much any song from this album. Could have been the Fez, one of the very few songs where there's a third person co-writing with. There's only like two or three songs that Steely Dan wrote where it has a third person co-write, and the Fez was one of them. There's a guy named Paul Griffin, I think it was his name. He did a keyboard part that Fagan absolutely loved and wanted to include in the song, and he wanted to make sure that he got a writing credit for it. And so
Smart
yeah,
guy.
so yeah, very, very, very good. Fagan thought very highly of him. So that was a big thing. We won't go into the lyrical, but that's not my choice. That's not my song choice, although it is a good song. I could have picked Caves of Altamira. I could have picked Sign In Stranger. But no, my number one, my number one favorite all-time song by Steely Dan. You have already mentioned it, the title track. I have always been enthralled with the title track, The Royal Scam, ever since I was a kid, and I've heard it as a 6 or 7 year old kid. That snarling riff, I love that. I love that sound. That again, you tell the story, and they wandered in from the city of St. John without a dime. From this, what a great. I mean, it's just it tells this really dark, cynical story. But oh God, again, another Larry Carlton masterpiece. The horns, the background vocals, the storytelling, everything wonderful. Mwah! Love that song. Will always be my favorite Steely Dan track.
Nice. I'm glad it was on my list now. Okay, my number two goes back to my record store days. More on that in a second. From
Okay.
Katie Lied, 1975. The first single hit number 37 in the US, number 36 in Canada. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Black Friday.
Hmm.
You get Walter on lead guitar on here, and he just rocks on Black Friday. Jeff Porcaro, who was all of 20 years old, who played on every song except one. Can you believe these guys had a 20-year-old drummer? Holy cow. Played on every song except one on Katie Lie. Jeff Porcaro, later of Toto, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, and he was
Yeah.
just a force on the drums. Wow. David Page on electric piano here from Toto. So this could have been the embryonic beginnings of Toto. These guys are doing sessions, they're hanging out, they meet, they form a bond, and you get Toto from Steely Dan. Michael Omardian on piano. And I used to love playing this song every year on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, when I worked in the record stores, the
I can
biggest quote
imagine.
unquote retail day of the year. And I was the one I always played Black Friday, and I'd get the eye roll. I'm like, come on, we got to hear this song. It's Black Friday. Bonus points here. Michael McDonald, whom we haven't. Oh, no, you mentioned him.
Hmm.
I haven't mentioned him. Michael McDonald on backing vocals here. His first appearance with the band on Katie Lied, 1975. Black Friday, my number two song, great rocker. And I first heard it on rock radio and fell in love with that song. And here is a song that I discovered later by Steely Dan once I was working in the record stores. And I heard this song. It's a 4 minute song, and it's one of their few songs not on any proper album. Here at the Western World is my number one. That is my
Wow.
favorite
Okay.
Steely Dan song. And I know it's a very odd choice. And no one is even sure when this song was recorded. Was it recorded in 76? Was it 74? Was it during the Royal Scam? Was it during Pretzel Logic? No one is sure, but it first made its appearance on their 1978 2 LP collection just called Greatest Hits
Yep.
because it didn't make the cut for Asia. So
Right.
they stuck it on this record because okay, they weren't touring, but they had spent so long in the studio making Asia and they just wanted to take a break. And of course, Gaucho didn't come out till 1980. So they said, let's put this song in here. Let's add the female backing vocals so it sounds a more like a more fuller Steely Dan song.
Yeah.
Now, it's said that Bernard Purdy plays the drums on here, but most people think it's actually Jim Gordon. And I read about this in Tia's book, Steely Dan FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions. Let me get it on camera there. And there they are, Becker and Fagan on the cover. So people, although it says Bernard Purdy is credited on drums, a lot of people think it's actually Jim Gordon on drums here. Dean Parks and a guy named Jeff Mironov on guitar. They're both on electric and acoustic guitars. And this was Jeff Mironov's only. This was his one Steely Dan session. Was on here at the Western World. Michael Omartian on piano, and the piano to me makes this song. You get the female backing vocals, like I said. And the gentleman who wrote this book, Anthony Robustelli, hope I'm pronouncing his name right, says, quote, I'm quoting him, a tender ballad about a brothel with definite drug allusions, end
Hmm.
quote. And it's another super catchy chorus. I love the guitar solo on this song. And to me, it's a perfect pop song here at the Western World. Just a wonderful song. Always my favorite Steely Dan song since I first discovered it.
I completely forgot about that song because my brother had that. He had that two album, greatest hits album. And I remembered that song, but or back then, but oh gosh, I haven't heard that in forever. Wow, I need to track that up. I need to track that one
One
down.
down.
It's on a lot of greatest hits. There's a great
Yeah.
green covered CD, lighter than the green shirt I'm wearing, called
Yeah.
Showbiz Kids, the definitive Steely Dan. It's on there.
Yeah, it's I know
Great
it's
song.
definitely not on this. So,
No, it's on the the 2 LP. I think it did come out on CD as an import, maybe
right.
an American release called just Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
78. It was a to fill the time gap before their new album, which took 3 years after Asia, like I said, Gaucho.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I gotta track that down. So that good choice. Wow, I
Thank you.
completely forgot about that one. So
It's such a deep cut. It's not on any of their official 9 albums. So
yeah, yeah, that's good. That's a good deal. That's good good deep cut. So
thanks.
so let's see. So I got what so we'll do some honorables.
Yeah. Honorable mentions. Take it
All
away.
right, so I'm gonna have to pull a Rich Catino here. So for all you see at Tranquility fans, you'll know what I'm
You'll know what I'm talking about here. I had to go with four because there was one that I really wanted to put in that top 12, but it's just, when you're trying to fit every a song from every album, it's just so hard. But I'll save that one for last. But so the only song I picked from Everything Must Go is going to be Blues Beach. I like that. I thought it was just a nice kind of energetic, upbeat music, very downer kind of lyrics. Again, about this whole disillusionment and trying to get away from all the trappings of the world kind of thing. But it just had such a upbeat kind of feel. Everything Must Go is not a bad album. It doesn't get a lot of respect, I think, from a lot of Steely Dan fans. I think for some reason, but I think Fagan seems to think it's really a kind of an underdog, so a little dark horse kind of thing. Um,
My next one is going to be from Two Against Nature, and it's the album Closer, West of Hollywood.
Um, again, eight or 8+ minute track. You got Chris Potter doing a tenor sax solo, just riding out. Again, the band just kind of gets to really stretch it out a little bit, and I really love that because man, again, when the band can stretch out, these guys just really show. They're just showing off. They're just like, yeah. And I love how I love how the drums are recorded for those two albums for some reason. There's something about those two albums that really I was so impressed with how good they were recorded. I don't know why. Anyway, my last tie to for I think you have already mentioned FM from the FM movie soundtrack, and then my tiebreaker, I have to include I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I have to include Dirty Work. I've loved Dirty Work. I think that's just it's just such a catchy, nice kind of laid back song. I know it's not Fagan on lead vocals. It's somebody else. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of
David
my head.
Palmer.
Yes, David Palmer. Correct. You're right. And again, the background vocals I think do such a great job with it, and so I had to include Dirty Work in there somewhere. So those would be my honorables.
And Dirty Work and West of Hollywood were on my larger list because those are great songs,
Yeah.
but they didn't make my cut. Okay, my honorable mentions, I'm going to go 16 to 13 here. I have to mention this song from the debut album, 4 minutes 20 seconds, Can't Buy a Thrill, 1972. Brooklyn owes the charmer under me. It's actually Brooklyn, and then in parentheses, owes the charmer under me. Sublime song with David Palmer once again on lead vocals, and the two he sang, now we have mentioned from the debut album when he was a member of the band. You get Skunk Baxter on pedal steel guitar here, doing some great little fills, little runs on pedal steel. You get those great female backing vocals again. And my father came from Brooklyn. So this is my tribute to my father who passed away a couple of years back. My roots, half of them are in Brooklyn, half in Queens, even though I'm based in Queens now. And also, I work in Brooklyn. So I had to include this song. So I cheated also, and I have 16 total songs here. Moving on to number 15 from Pretzel Logic 74, 3 minutes, 20 seconds, Barrytown.
Yeah.
Great story song that's melodic with a cool Sly Fagan vocal here. Pristine chorus on Barrytown. So catchy. Love it. 14 and 13, you both mentioned here. Almost 6 minutes long. Countdown to Ecstasy 73. My Old School, because you get Skunk on that sterling lead guitar. This was the second single. You gave the chart history on it, so I'm not going to repeat it. And then last, from the debut 72 Can't Buy a Thrill, Reelin' in the Years you mentioned, 437, Elliot Randall and that great lead guitar. And those songs just rock, and they represent Steely Dan's rock and roll side to me. Just the upbeat with the great stuff.
Yeah.
So Steely Dan, they're rock, they're jazz, they're pop, they're a bit of everything.
Yes.
And they even got sampled by hip hop artists later on. One of the songs on my list was sampled by the hip hop trio Third Base back in the day in the early 90s. So they even have a very little tenuous connection to hip hop, you could say. But
Go
it's a
figure.
great band. And if you haven't heard any of our picks, you should go check them out. All their stuff is on streaming, the streaming services. It's on YouTube, or go to your local record store and pick up a greatest hits CD,
Yeah.
because record stores still rule. I just wish I had one closer to me here where I am. I only get to go to them when I go to Long Island,
Right.
which
Right.
isn't too often nowadays, unfortunately.
Right. You know, another song I could have picked.
From Can't Buy a Thrill is Midnight Cruiser. That was another one that
That
was
was
in
on my
my
larger
that was
list.
on my larger list. Razor Boy or the Boston Rag. I mean, gosh, there was a number of other songs that, man, East Toodly Doo. I can't think of the name of it
The
now. I don't have.
instrumental, yeah.
Yeah, that was another one that again, there was when you get a catalog that even though it's not immense like some bands like like say Yes or Jethro Tull or something, they they have such a solid catalog that it's just you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong with anything that they put out.
And although
So
we didn't talk about this, maybe after your hiatus from YouTube and social media, whatever, for a couple of months, maybe you'll come back and we'll rank the catalog. Have you done that on My Music Corner?
I have never done that. No.
no, the only thing I've ever done with Steely Dan on John the Music Nut and I talked about the Royal Scam. We did we just did a show on just that album.
I think I
But
saw that episode.
yeah,
Like what you
yeah,
did with Yes Drama,
Correct.
one of those episodes, an album spotlight.
Right, album spotlight. So, yeah, that because we both loved that album and yeah, but yeah, I've never tried to rank the catalog. That would be
yeah. I could do that.
Okay.
I could do that. I would, I'd be, yeah, I'd go in all in on that.
Okay. You want to talk about your channel a little before we say
yeah.
goodbye?
So for all you
Well, even though I'm probably not going to be putting anything out for a little bit, I've got series on Wasp. I'm mostly a heavy metal guy, if you haven't figured that part out. But I do a lot of stuff on Wasp. We've done Armored Saint. We did Dangerous Toys. We looked at the Japanese band EZO. We looked at Judas Priest for almost half a year. We did Accept. We did Twisted Sister. We did some other album spotlights. John the Music Nut and I talked wrestling a few times. I had a group of guys that we talked about some random things. One particular show I was really proud of, we did a show talking about temporary replacement singers. Again, in the metal genre, so we talked about Priest and Crew and Maiden and Anthrax. Yeah, I had to couldn't remember. That was a great show. And yeah, and then I've just finished up a series on a Christian metal band called Mortification. So I've done a little bit of all kinds of different stuff. Um, and then yeah, you can find me on Rock Daydream Nation. I've done stuff with Peter Kerr, uh, Mike Ladano's Grab a Stack of Rock, uh, uh, Grant's Rock Warehouse, the Contrarians. Uh, who else have I been on? All are nada with Jack Toledano, or according to Jack. Yeah, the only thing I haven't gotten on is Sea of Tranquility yet, so I don't think that's going to happen right now. But that's okay.
Well, after the break, after your hiatus, maybe.
well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I'll I don't know if I'll
I don't know if I'll make Pete Paro's list or not, but we'll see. I'm not putting my hopes up.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me, John.
Thank
I
you. Thank
appreciate
you.
you coming on. And everyone, why don't you let us know in the comments below your favorite Steely Dan songs? 5, 10, 12, whatever you want to mention. So I want everyone to like the video, subscribe to my channel here, Cretan Classics, comment below, and subscribe to John's channel, My Music Corner. Not me, not his, but it's called My Music Corner. I want everyone to rock out, prog on, and pogo. Thanks for joining us. John will be back later on in the year, early next year, whenever his hiatus is done. Thanks a lot. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye
Rock
bye.
forever. See ya.